Buy, rent or co-share? Not an easy question to answer if you are a millennial who is in the market for a new home. In this week's Insight segment, we look at how Singaporeans in their mid-20s to late 30s are having to make some tough choices in order to get on the property ladder. A housing supply crunch and rising prices have forced some to rethink their options. Joining us now is journalist Michelle Ng, who has reported on the situation here in Singapore. Hey Michelle. Michelle, tell us about what young families have been telling you. Has the pandemic disrupted their plans?
Yes, definitely. The pandemic has disrupted some plans, especially for young couples and families. So like you mentioned earlier, some of the key issues are longer wait for BTO flats, and HDB resale flats are getting more and more expensive these days. And of course, for others, there's also the tension of different generations like your parents, grandparents living under one roof, especially now that we are almost 2 years into this work from home norm. So to tackle the issue one by one, so the first fundamental issue is that BTO flats, which are the most affordable options for Singaporeans, which explains why it's so popular and always oversubscribed. But the issue now with BTO flats is that construction works are going to take longer than usual. So in the past, it used to take about 3 to 4 years. Now we are looking at about 4 to 5 years. So it's about a whole year delay. But the real issue surrounding BTO flats delay is really the uncertainty of it. Like, you never know when another wave of COVID-19 is going to hit, or when construction works will be delayed, or whether you can actually get your keys on time. But I think generally Singaporeans are not very patient, nor do they want to wait so long for a flat anyway. So that brings us to our next best option, which is the HDB resale flats. But as everyone knows that prices for HDB resale flats have been rising for the past 17 or so months. So it's not really the best time if you are out there searching for a HDB resale flat to buy. And same goes for the private property prices. They are also constantly rising the past few months. So the real option is, if you really do want to move out of your family home, so that brings us to renting, like the interim housing such as HDB, PPHS, provisional parenthood housing scheme, or just renting a HDB room or a unit just from the open market in general. But usually renting also means that you got to put up with some space constraints or limitation in some ways. So it's not really the most ideal situation as well. And of course, with renting, the main barrier is that this costs money. So either you got to make some financial sacrifice, or if you don't have that financial capability to rent, you just got to put up with your current living situation until either your BTO flat is ready or the resale flat prices drop.
Michelle, what about people who are single? Are they in a rush to move out of their home?
For singles, I would say that they are in a unique situation. Really, they are kind of like stuck in a rock and a hard place, because you gotta wait till you are 35 to buy a HDB resale flat. So what do you do in the meantime if number one, you really just don't want to stay at home anymore, or number two, you just cannot afford to buy a private property and you are not yet 35 years old. So ultimately, some people that I've spoken to say that renting is their interim option for now. So whether it's renting a HDB room or unit, or a co-living unit. So there are a couple of people that I've spoken to, both couples and singles who are renting. And to be honest, most, if not all, say that moving out is one of the best things they have done. Everyone is very aware that when you rent, the money that you're paying for your rent could actually go into your pot to save up for your future housing. But I guess it's a trade-off that some are willing to make. But of course, not everyone is in this financial position to be able to rent. So that in itself is like a step up from the average person. I think in general, the pandemic has impacted the housing plans of quite a large number of people. And in some ways, everyone has had to adapt or just to reevaluate their housing plans. But I think we will never really know the extent of the impact until one day, sometime in the future, when COVID is behind us, and when we look back and we really reevaluate this situation and realize how it has really impacted our lives.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle,
No
for
worries.
coming on to the show. And that was journalist
you.
Michelle Ng. Now for an interactive look at how homes in Singapore have changed over the years. Check this out. The design of HDB flats has evolved since the first ones were built. Through 3D models, you can compare and visualize the changing layout of two Toa Payoh flats built in the 1970s and 2020. You'll find it in the December special section on straitstimes.com.